So you're thinking about moving to Leavenworth, Kansas. Well, in this video, we're gonna talk about some pros and some cons to living in Leavenworth, Kansas. And if you stick around to the end, I'm gonna give you the biggest con of all of Leavenworth, Kansas. You don't wanna miss that. And we're gonna get started right now. Hey, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you want to know everything there is about living in Kansas City and moving to Kansas City, then click the subscribe button, hit the little bell for notifications so you can be the first to know of the current market here in the Kansas City area and surrounding towns like Leavenworth. My name is Zach Morton. My business partner Max Jones, the team and I have been helping people move in and to Kansas City for over 20 years. We absolutely love it. We get calls, texts, and emails from people just like you every single day, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check out one of our over 600 5-star Google reviews and see what our clients have to say about us. So whether you are moving in 3 days or 3 months, pick up the phone, give us a call, shoot us a text, set up a Zoom call. All that information is in the description below so we can chat and come up with a plan to ensure you have a smooth move to Kansas City. All right, so like I said, we're talking about pros and cons of Leavenworth today. And the first pro that I want to talk about is the cost of living and the cost of housing in Leavenworth, Kansas, because you get a lot for your money out there. Let's start with some stats. So we did a vlog on Leavenworth, Kansas, where we took you around and looked at some different homes and different price points. So make sure you check that out. But as in general, Leavenworth, there is the city of Leavenworth, and then there is the county. So I'm pulling stats for the whole county. If we just did the city, the average sales price over the last 12 months is coming in right at $225,000 for property. And then as we zoom out and include the whole county, which I think is really more relevant, you're looking right at $300,000 as the average sales price over the last 12 months. And that is an increase over the previous 12 months by 14%. I know we've been coming out of a pretty hot market. I don't expect that to keep happening. Probably more of a 3 to 5% appreciation rate is kind of what we're expecting for the next year or two. But that's kind of the price point here. And that gets you the price per square footage, if you're that kind of person, it's coming in right at $115 at that average price point, and up to some of the upper end stuff, $130, $140, $150 a square foot, which is still a phenomenal deal. If you get closer to the city, you know, in some places you can pay almost double that, especially for some new construction. So great price on property. Now, because of that great price, sometimes you have to give up a little thing. So that kind of brings us to one of our cons, which is location. So Leavenworth, Kansas isn't located real close to the city. It's located to the northwest, really not too far away, but the problem is the highway systems to get to Leavenworth they're not like 4-lane highways. What you're talking about is highways that are old country road highways with no shoulders. So you've got 2 lanes. They can be kind of windy, so you're meandering through farmland and country. Although it's a beautiful drive, it's just not if it's your daily commute, it's not as a relaxing drive because you really got to pay attention. It's not like just cruising straight down the highway. You know, you're just focused on staying in your lane, no problem, just one hand. This is, you know, country road. Looking out for deer, you're looking out for all kinds of critters and other cars, and you got to stay in your lane or you're on the shoulder. So anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So there's really not a great way into it. You're only on those back roads, those back highway roads for, you know, 15 minutes, but there is times where you get stuck behind a tractor or farm equipment where traffic can really get backed up on those roads, especially during rush hour. And if you didn't know that was coming, there's not a lot of ways out of it, although there are several ways in. If you catch it in time, there's not a lot of ways to get around once you're on that road. So anyway, just something to consider. That's kind of one of my pros and one of my cons. All right, the next pro number 2 to living in Leavenworth is the schools. They really have a great school system. It's rated A+, and I want to talk about that just a little bit. Leavenworth is a suburban community with local amenities, with a quick drive to multiple dining, shopping, entertainment destinations throughout the greater Kansas City metropolitan area. You're 20 minutes to the Kansas Speedway, Hollywood Casino, and the Legends Shopping, which we've talked about in the vlog if you want to know more about that. We're 20 minutes to Zona Rosa shopping and dining, 25 minutes to the MCI or KCI Airport, 35 minutes to Arrowhead Stadium and the sports complex Chiefs and Royals, 40 minutes to Kansas City Power and Light District, the Crossroads Art District, and the T-Mobile Center. Leavenworth Public Schools serve over 3,700 students and is designated as a 5A district by the Kansas State High School Activity Association. Leavenworth High School offers approximately 50 athletic and academic activities and competes in the Unified Kansas Conference, as well as state and national competition. Breakdown of enrollment for the last year is we have 3 elementary schools that have on average of about 300 students. There is a middle school with about 500 and an intermediate school with about 500, and then the Leavenworth High School has about 1,250 kids. Our staff. The district employs qualified staff of teachers and support personnel. Leavenworth maintains a continued focus on ongoing school improvements, specifically in the areas of teaching and learning. Special education, support services, parent community involvement, technology, human resources, and facilities. 309 certified staff members, 289 classified employees, and 41 district building administrators. The 2023 to 2024 starting teacher salary is $45,000 for a 2-year negotiated agreement. So that's just kind of an overview of the school district real quick and what they have and kind of the student count. I will say that when I did a little research from niche.com, they said that the average student per teacher was about 12 students per teacher, which I think that's a pretty good number. And the average spend per kid was just a few dollars, a couple $100 below the national average, but we're in a small town where the cost of living is a little bit lower, so that is expected. And I would say if you compare it to the averages, it's probably a little bit on the high side. All right, that brings me to con number 2. We're kind of flip-flopping back and forth, and that is rent versus own. So this is about 50-50 in this town. We got about 50% of the people own property and 50% of the people rent property. And a lot of that is because of Fort Leavenworth. We've talked about this in our vlog if you want to check that out, and our map of Leavenworth if you want to check that video out. We're going to dive in and look at different areas. But there is a base called Fort Leavenworth. It's an Army base. It's known as the Army's Intellectual Center. So they've got a lot of schools and colleges there where military personnel will come in for education. They might be there for 2 years or 4 years, depending on how long the school and the classes is and all that. So because of that, you have families that are coming for a short period of time, 2 years, 4 years, and they may not be purchasing, they may decide to rent. So that's why you'll see a lot of turnover. Usually that turnover happens in June and July is when they're reassigned to different bases and different locations. So every summer you'll see an influx of people moving in and out. Now it's not, it's military, it's professional people and families. It's not like you're gonna have the circus coming through town and moving in every year, but there is a lot of rentals, and that's just something to keep in mind. You might, if you're buying a house right close to the base, or in a nice neighborhood, and there's some rentals nearby, you might have some military families that kind of cycle through, which can be good. Just something to keep in mind if that's important to you. Now, as you get out a little bit further, you'll find as you get away from kind of the normal suburban life and kind of get into the farmland or the acreage, which you don't have to get too far, just a couple miles outside of town, and you're looking at acreage property, then you can expect most people are going to be staying around. You get your people that are like retirement, they want a little bit of land, they want some elbow room, so they choose to get a little further away from the city and hanging out there. If that's more what you're into and you're looking at Leavenworth because you want the quiet life, you want to get away from town, you don't need to be in town every day, then it's a great place to consider because your dollar goes a long way. When you're looking at acreage properties, you're looking for some peace and quiet when you're up in Leavenworth, and you're still 45 minutes at the most to all the major amenities of Kansas City. All right, that brings me to pro number 3, and I think we kind of touched on that, and that's just that small town feel. If that's what you're looking for, is a quiet, slower pace of life, Leavenworth does have that old downtown. This is the oldest city in Kansas, the first city in Kansas. As everybody started going west, that's why the Fort Leavenworth was put there. It was actually to protect the settlers that were traveling west on the Oregon Trail, the Overland Trail, and the Santa Fe Trail. So that's how the city was established. And so it's an old city, and as it grew, it had its downtown. There is an interesting fact: there is no main street in Leavenworth, but 4th and Cherokee. If you look at our map video, we kind of touch on downtown, what you can see around that. And then you can also check out our vlog on Leavenworth. We walk around town, walk down by the river, and point out some of the other cool things that it has to offer. But what I want to touch on is it does have that old town, that old downtown charm. There's 28 block shopping district down there that's got several restaurants, very diverse restaurants. We've got Jamaican, you've got Thai food, you've got Korean food, you've got sushi, you've got American pizza. I mean, they've got it all. which is pretty cool for a little small town that kind of has that country feel to it. So that's what I really like about that, is that downtown charm. It's about 4 blocks, kind of the main shopping district is about 4 blocks from the river. So you get a nice little walk down after your meal, walk down to the river, watch the Missouri River. There's a beautiful bridge that goes from the Missouri side into the Kansas side, right by Leavenworth, and just kind of a cool scenic little downtown. There's lots of walking trails, there's a water park, so there is some features that make Leavenworth nice, but it's more that slower pace of life. You know, if you want to do anything exciting, you're going to find yourself traveling to some of those shopping districts that I mentioned when we talked about the schools, and you're going to be traveling for that. So I would plan on, you know, a solid 30 minutes to get to most of the places that you're gonna want to go for entertainment, and then you're going to have to deal with those. You know, heading south is probably your fastest way out. But if you're heading east to stick up into the Northland, you're just gonna have to navigate some of those roads. And depending on where you're coming from and what your goals are, that might not be any big deal. So I would say if you're looking for that slower pace of life, you want that country feel, you want access to restaurants and stuff downtown, little mom and pop kind of places, this might be a good spot for you because you get a lot for your money. All right, and that brings me to the last con, the one that I told you want to stick around with and not miss, and that is, there is more cons in Leavenworth than anywhere else. And what do I mean by that? I mean convicts, so a little play on words there. But Leavenworth is home to the Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary. So that is one of the major employers there. So you've got the military base, which is a major employer. And then we've also got the penitentiary, which is federal penitentiary, which is also a major employer. So I'm not aware, I mean, it's not like people are breaking out of jail and causing problems, but it is there. You can see it from one of the main streets, and it's got barbed wire all around that. So more of just a play on words, but it does employ a lot of people, so it's just something to know about. You can see it from the main street coming into town with barbed wire and fences and all that. So kind of interesting, just something that I like to point out. So when you drive across that bridge and you land in Leavenworth and you're like, where are we? There's a prison and barbed wire and there's a military base. It can be kind of intimidating if you don't know what you're getting into, but they're away from the housing, they're away from downtown. It's just kind of on the north side of town, just west of the base. So you get the military base, and then you have the penitentiary, and they're pretty much, you know, side by side for the most part, and kind of out of the way, and then everything kind of funnels down to the south off that main street as far as housing and entertainment and all the things that you're going to want to do and places you're going to want to live. So that's it. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it useful, please hit subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications so you can be the next to know of what's happening in the current market here in the Kansas City area.